Hello. So I've had a very productive Easter weekend, and today is Easter Monday. I've finished, well, I think I will put in some effort to retouch this picture here. Rejection, this latest art that I've done. Rejection. How does this card? So I want to talk about how this card actually came to my mind. So before this card was burst, um, to the form that you can see, how it actually arrived to me as an image in my head. So I went for interview, and an interview that I initially wanted to deny, and I didn't because I thought, well, actually, I'm already this far into the application process. I may as just do the interview. Though I did have a little bit of resistance, and I really didn't want to do sit interview, and I thought I'll be a mature person and I just sit into interview. Halfway through interview, I first of all didn't feel welcomed because during the interview there were people going and coming, so there was a lot of interruption and people were just like dropping off, and they just said, okay, they have to go. And I thought this is like the most informal interview that I've ever sat through. And by the way, that was on a Friday afternoon about 4 p.m. So I guess already that sets a tone how informal that was gonna be, and how people didn't really care about whether that was interview or not, because I did have to put in effort and time to actually, although I didn't actually have to prepare for the interview, I just have to turn up, but I still turned up, and that was some commitment that I put into. So halfway through the interview, I really want to leave the interview, and I thought, wait, I'm a mature person and I can sit through it. So I sat through it, and constantly going through my mind was like, even if they do offer me the job, I'm going to turn them down. And that's the decision that I've made based on the interaction that I've had with them. Prior to the interaction with them, I've already felt like I didn't want to sit in the interview. So that was first signal. And then during the interview, they were just dropping off. And thirdly, during the interview, I didn't feel like I could answer the questions as well as I could. Not because I'm not capable of answering the questions, because I didn't feel like I was welcome to. I didn't feel like I was invited to answer those questions, but they were just questions they just want to ask. But maybe they didn't care about the answer. I mean, the fact that people were dropping off from the interview could be clearly a sign that it wasn't that important to them. So I've made the decision at that moment that even if they do extend an offer to me, I would turn them down. So it wasn't going to be a case where they reject me. It was more of I reject them, maybe they also reject me, the fact they didn't extend offer to me. So this is a different scenario, whereas I was holding open a hope where they would offer a job and I would accept that. But it wasn't. It was already in a moment during the interview that both of us, so their party and myself, I've already decided, no, I don't like them. And so I will not accept them. So at that moment, I've made the decision to reject, even if I get offered. But they didn't offer that, so I didn't have to physically say, no, I'm not gonna apply. I'm not gonna proceed. I'm not gonna sign a contract. But what's really interesting is that was the first time that I've clearly in my mind that I've made a decision to reject. And that was the first time. I've never had the opportunity to do that prior to that exercise. You would think it's really interesting. I do apply for a lot of jobs, and I interview almost monthly. And that was the first time that I actually felt like, no, actually there was another time, but that time was really strong because I just thought I'm just not going to say yes. Never would I. And this image came to me. And what's really interesting about this image is there was a lot of rockets, like military missile. Those rockets missile that was actually firing towards me. And I was like, whoa, what is this nastiness? It's like at that moment I was imagining, so if they were talking about me, they would probably be talking about how unsuitable that I was. And whether they described it in a nasty way or a mature way or professional way, I think what they would describe is I would be unsuitable. And how I would describe them, they would be unsuitable employer for me. But in that moment, I realized rejection is actually probably a very hard decision to make, because if you think about all this in the historical time that you've had experience where someone rejected you and you might have felt sad. Maybe that's one of the possible reactions that you would have, sadness. Or you would feel like, oh, I wish I could do that for you, but I really can't. You feel like sorry for them because you kind of want to help them, but you really don't want to help them, or you really want to help them, but you really can't help them. Like, if you help them, that would set you on a very bad spot. Anyway, whatever that caused you to say no, it was a not easy no. And then third of all, you could just have become really upset and you were angry and you start to like maybe not curse them, but like really wish them, maybe not even to the extreme that you wish them unwell, but you just have those nasty thoughts that you keep to yourself. And so those are the three options. Or that could be like, third, or maybe that's fourth option. But whatever it is how you handle yourself. So during the incidents of being rejected. And so why make the decision to reject? I remember something from my childhood. So when I was a child, obviously I'm not I wouldn't have been a mature person like I am now. I am today. That when I'm handling rejection, I would probably I can guarantee I can openly just say that I did curse, but not like intentionally wishing them like really really bad, but like I just wanted myself to feel better. So I would have I clearly remember that I have wished someone unwell. And do I feel like I did the right thing? No, I don't. It was just the way that me as a child handled things that way. Do I feel bad? Do I want people to know? No, I don't. And in fact, the fact that I can openly talk about this now is because if I could teach my younger self, I would tell her, I would say to her, is there something that you don't accept from this decision, being rejected? And I would imagine that my younger self would openly say, no, I accept. I think what they did was the right decision. But handling it when I was younger and when I was handling it by myself, it was a different story. I obviously at this stage I would wish that I wasn't. I didn't wish anybody unwell. I would just have accepted it. But that wasn't the way that I was taught, and that wasn't the way that in my childhood, that was the way that I was taught to handle things like that. But that's like history now. The reason I want to talk about it is because this is really interesting, because a lot of things that I would imagine that when I was a child, when I was rejected, I fired a lot of nasty bullets, missile to another party. But if I could take them back, I would. And I think the fact that I was seeing a missile attacking me, that would be the reason why, because I would imagine that when I was younger, I did send off a lot of hostile missile to the other person, and the fact that I was seeing it was because I was receiving it at the same time. Whether that bothers me, or whether that when I received it I think nasty of another person, I wouldn't. I would take full responsibility of when I was a child. I didn't know better. I would just accept that, and I would just calmly accept that whatever comes to me, I just acknowledge it, and I would just let it be. So, and then I want to talk about this art. So apart from the missile, I want to talk about the split in the middle. So where this cloud, though I must admit, when I was actually painting it, I was aiming for cloud, but it does look like mist and fog. So the difference between mist and fog is it creates an illusion, because if you can see 100 meters naturally, but during your foggy days, you can't see that. So there's a lot of illusions going on. Illusion is not what I aim for. Cloud is what I'm aiming for. Because cloud is more dense. You can't see through cloud, whether you can. But cloud is more like a dreamy state, whereas fog is really just like blocking your view. So the upper side of this picture, of this art, is actually, this side actually, is the day, which has the sun and the blue sky, lighter blue sky, and the bottom is the moon, and then the darker violet, dark color blue, because the night to a human eye is actually blue, not black, because there's a little bit of like lighting going on. I would imagine if it was just like complete darkness with no star, with no moon, then that would just be pitch black. But normally it's not the case. There's always going to be some kind of light source, and then the sky and the atmosphere to us humans is actually bluish color. So this person is reaching out for new. Like I was saying, if I knew better, I wouldn't have wished the other person or other situation unwell. It was just the way I was handling it. So if I were to reach for the star, I would seek for a better way to handle it. And this is the mature way to handle it, is just to accept. And so from a very dark place to a very light place is light and shadow happens at the same time. Because so if you look at it closely on the screen, because my light source is coming from this side, so if my hand is here, then on this side, because the light source is hitting this hand, it's really bright, and whereas on this side, because the light isn't hitting it, it's actually darker in color. So light and dark actually happens at the same time. Because if you know how the planet works, the moon, the sun, and the earth, the moon orbits around the earth. And so when you can see the moon, you don't see the sun. When you see the sun, you don't see the moon, because it's the opposite. But it does happen at the same time, because any given time, this hour to me is dark. It's about 8 p.m. this hour, and some other country or some other city would be still daytime. So that's kind of like how Earth works. So darkness and lightness actually happens at the same time. So same with rejection. So once I've made the decision to reject, I also made the decision to accept my decision to reject. And when I reject, and I inform the other party that I reject them, then they would have to accept that decision as well. So from rejection, there's always going to be decision, whether it's from hopeful, that I'm hopeful I apply for a job, but I hope I get it. Hopeful state to accept that I have been accepted for the job, or to accept that I have been rejected from the job. I would still have to accept. Same with the other party. They may have to decide logically who's the best candidate for them. And then they would turn down the other applicants that tell them or not tell them. No one, nowadays not everybody gets told, but if you don't get told, the chances are is you're not going to be told, you're going to be accepted. So that would be from a decision making to justify why they made the decision, and then to a decision and to acceptance, to either turn this person down, accept that they will turn this person down, or to accept that they will offer this person a job. And if this person do accept the job, or this person do reject the job, then they would accept whether this person is going to be starting or the person doesn't start. So there's a lot of acceptance going on. So rejection is just one of the decisions that you can make. So I think I'll finish here on explaining what rejection is. But I did record this. I tried to record this earlier, and I touched on a little bit of different aspect about rejection and acceptance happening at the same time. But this time when I recorded, I talked about my own experience, and I think it's meant to be, because this is why this picture exists. It's because when I was younger, I didn't know how to handle rejections better. And in fact, the things I didn't know wasn't that I was being rejected. I didn't know how to handle was because I didn't know how to handle heartbreaks, and whether that heartbreak was from rejection or my hope, like my investment or my dream was crushed. That didn't really matter, because what I didn't know how to handle was how to handle heartbreaks, because heartbreaks is something we experience physically, and sometimes it can be intense. And so our mind is trying to find us reasons why we are experiencing heartbreaks. And so this time, although I've made decision, but I can tell you straight away that after I've made decision, that decision was final decision. But every few hours or every next few days, once in a few days, my mind would trace back to that event, to the decision, and start to justify why I made the decision, and also justify what other options could I have, would I still consider them. And I think it was because I was consistent in my decision, so every time my mind just suggests that maybe I should reconsider it, and I would say no, I'm not going to reconsider it. And it's a conversation that I have with my subconscious mind and my subconscious mind, and that was decision was consistent from me. That was no, I'm not going to consider it because the decision was final, and I just need to make sure that every time my subconscious mind, back of my mind, trying to bring up the topic, I give it a consistent answer. Because in my experience, every time you don't give a consistent answer, the chances are your mind will keep bouncing back and forward, because the mind doesn't know whether you really have decided. But once you have really decided and there's no way back, I can guarantee you that the mind talk will just stop. So switching from one state to another takes a lot of energy. For example, if I have personally been stagnant, so that's why I keep trying with keeping up with the art, because I know if I leave it for too long, then the chance of me starting it would be quite hard. But whereas if I just do it consistently, then my mind would be knowing like that time slot is when I would be doing this, so I can schedule it. So the other thing I want to talk about is be respectful of your mind, because sometimes it does try to repeat something. You would think, oh, I've already made a decision, why do you bring it up? But I think there's something that's trying to process, and I think we should all try to help it process better, because the more consistent we are, the better that our mind would be able to handle it. Because if you think about it, it's really that you are trying to train an autopilot machine, because your mind actually your brain actually coordinates a lot of system in your mind for your body. So if you be consistent in training it, then your body, like your brain would be knowing like exactly how you want how you want this body to operate for you. All right, I'm really gonna finish it up here. Hope you had fun. Bye now.